Hello again, everyone, and welcome to The Crusher. I'm your host, Josh Brewster, with my lovely and talented co-host and ace news person, Susan Olson. Susan, how you doing?
You're obsessive, compulsive, news fetish person.
My
I was
obsessive
explaining, Tracy Gold and I teach an acting workshop together every summer. And we teach little kids at Vibe Performing Arts Studios. And I was just telling her, like, look, I don't expect other people to necessarily agree with me. I don't expect them to know that much either, because I spend at least 2 to 5 hours a day listening to podcasts and watching streaming, and I don't even have cable, so this isn't coming from the mainstream. I do have some access if something's live, but so yeah, I'm obsessed, and there's been no better time. In fact, I miss the old days when we had that orange president, and I didn't have so many concerns. I didn't have to turn on the news every day to find out what the heck's going on now.
Well, hopefully we will have the evil orange man again. But there's so much has happened in the 7 days since we spoke. We spoke with Cherie Curry last week. It was just 7 days ago. And in that time, Joe Biden is no more. And Benjamin Netanyahu addressed Congress, and the Iran's useful idiots, as he called them, were on the street. The Secret Service chief resigned. And Trump being shot in the head is ancient history now to most Americans. So why don't we begin with Kamala Harris, because she has emerged, and she's almost, I got a spit take. Yeah. We're going to start with Kamala Harris, and I'm going to keep my big mouth shut just momentarily to let you start with your thoughts about her emergence as the presumptive Democratic nominee. Well, she is the Democratic nominee for president. I have a lot to say, but we're going to start with you.
Well, for the first and probably only time in my life, I'm agreeing with BLM.
What did they say?
They do not support her. Well, and they wisely see that this is bypassing democracy.
Well, okay, but let you know that they want her for different reasons than they don't want her for different reasons than you don't want her. They don't want her because she's not enough of a communist for them.
Right, which gives me this much hope, almost as much as I have compassion for Palestine. Yeah, maybe she's not commie enough for them, but maybe they don't know her well enough. But this does circumvent the democratic process, and if anybody can give me credit for anything, I am fair. And I could say, oh, it doesn't matter, Biden's out, whatever. And people will say, well, if the rules were twisted for your guy or for your side of the game, it's like, no, this is America. These are our principles. This is what made America great, what made America the envy of the world, what made everybody copy America and made the planet a lot more civilized. We have rules. And we are not a democracy. We are a republic, which means that we're based on the rule of law. We are not based on mob rule, which in a nutshell means if we were a democracy and 51% of your neighbors wanted your house, they could get it. But in a democratic republic, we follow the rule of law, which is designed to protect the smallest minority, the individual. So if 99% of your neighbors wanted your home, they couldn't have it because the law says it's yours. So that's the difference. And but we have a democratic process. We use voting. And so with the Democrat Party, which is very poorly named, what they've done is they've thrown out the vote for president, for the nominee, and they're just installing a nominee. And
and
I think
and
they did
and
that for
blaming the other side and saying the other side is the threat to democracy, which is
oh,
what they always do, and whatever they're accusing the other side of is exactly what they're doing. That's the Saul Alinsky playbook.
exactly. Yes, it is Saul Alinsky. It's the communist playbook. And I mean, these are the things I really become afraid of all the kids that are getting homeschooled because these are the things that you learned on the playground. There was always the kid that accused you of doing what they were doing ahead of time so that you would get the blame for exactly what they're doing.
Right. So for example, when the Supreme Court says you cannot bail out student loans, Joe Biden says, I don't care about the democratic process or our process of our rules of law. I'm going to do it anyway. And principle is an interesting word that you bring up, because if I could tell you I'll tell you what I think. And first of all, you're right. Second of all, too much of the country doesn't care. Also, it's going to go forward. It's going to go forward whether we like it or not. So here are my reflections, and they are deeply negative and cynical. And you can slap me in the face if you want, and you can be disgusted with me. It's deeply negative and cynical. I look at the installation of Kamala Harris. Here we go. I look at
What are you doing
this.
for breakfast?
I look at this the way that Christopher Darden looked at the jury questionnaires in the OJ trial. And he said years later, as soon as I read the questionnaires, I knew we were never going to get a conviction because they were going to take up for OJ because of the color of his skin. And that was the beginning, middle, and end of it. And no one cares about the principle that he had murdered two people. These poor people who did not deserve to die, and they're not going to care. So here's what I think. I think it's a very shrewd move going with Kamala Harris, because she gets about 5 percentage points in the polls for being a woman, and she gets 5 percentage points in the polls for not being white. Okay, I'm sorry, folks. That's what this is, because to me, we deal in symbols. And I will say on the issue of principle, and this is a lot, this country, the first American millennium, in my view, ended the day they shot Martin Luther King. Because all these ideas of color blindness and equality, they immediately ended. Okay, they immediately ended in 1968. That was the touchstone. That was the end of the first American millennium. And we are nothing now, as Tom Wolfe described, we are back to blood. This is all tribalism now. So I'm also going to add this. I think she selects Josh Shapiro as her running mate. And the reason she does it is because she wants to be able to kiss Hamas's ass
Mm-hmm.
while putting a Jewish candidate up who will validate her, and she can say, you see, I have a Jewish candidate. And I hate to say it, but most of my fellow Jews will just go along with this because it's the Democratic Party. These are my thoughts. I really believe, and Susan, seriously, and I'm almost done with my speech. Open borders, inflation, awful foreign policy, giving billions to Iran, laying the groundwork for Hamas and Hezbollah, and the end of energy independence, and every failing of this administration will be overlooked because she's a woman and she's not white, and people are stupid. We do tribute to stupidity. I'm telling you, Susan, I'm telling you, people will not look behind this. And I wonder, like the people who J.J. Carroll went to speak to in the South Side of Chicago, a lot of African Americans who said, "I can't believe this is happening." With this open border invasion, I wonder how many of them will simply pull the lever for Kamala Harris. I have no faith in most people. I'm sorry, I'm terribly cynical. I really think that people are going to do this. They're going to point the finger and say, "Oh, it's America's racist," and then they're going to vote for her because she's a woman and she's not white. And Trump had better get goddamn serious right now. That's my speech. You can have the rest of the show. That's my speech.
No, that's okay. I Probably because I see the public a lot because I was on a very popular TV show when I was a kid, and there are fans. And the fans of that TV show really believe in everything that's being destroyed in America because Brady Bunch did represent family values, which is what I hated about it when I was a kid because I wanted to play axe murderers and junkies and stuff. And I had this squeaky clean image, which made me leave acting. Um, and now, since being a mother, I really appreciate those aspects of the show that, it was a show about kids that respected their parents and the parents respected the kids. We had a father who wasn't stupid, an intact family. We showed a standard of living that will never be attainable again if we keep going the way we are. But so all these things that I don't know. Maybe my dealings with the public are really different because the people that I meet are smarter and appreciate things. Um, my sister keeps telling me I work with the public. The public are stupid. People are stupid. They're really stupid. They're going to fall for this because they're stupid. They're really stupid. And I'm like, no, 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 no. People are much smarter than they're being given credit for.
I pray you're right, Susan. I pray. Please continue. I pray you're right. I really do.
Well, I look back on the things that people were saying when we were speculating that maybe Harris would be the choice for the nominee. And almost all of my people, my podcasters and such said, no, America's not going to fall for that. No way. No, she has too bad a track record. Her history, her convictions, how many people of color she put in prison and ruined their lives, and she withheld exculpatory evidence, and there's no way the Americans are not going to fall for her. Well, guess what? And she's got lady parts and brown skin, and that's all they need. That's all they care about. And they'll argue with you. They'll say, that's not why. It's her principles, it's her policies. Okay, name one. She's just so relatable. She dresses well. It's like with Hillary. Oh, she wears a pantsuit so well. That was entirely about women power. And if you have felt oppressed all your lives as women, okie dokie. I guess maybe, look, third wave feminism is a joke to me because in the first place, if you're going to have a pussy march wearing your little hats, and it's led by Linda Sarsour, who advocates for Sharia.
Oh yeah. Yeah, whenever
You're
there's
stupid spelled with two O's.
Yeah, when Jewish women are raped, they don't say a damn thing. But when they see Mitt Romney, they throw the hats on and get out on the street because this is the threat to femininity somehow. Okay, that's fine. Girls are being sold in the back of a flatbed truck in Africa. You say nothing, but you see Mitt Romney or Donald Trump and you completely lose it. But okay.
No, you're forgetting, Josh.
And they throw the Jewish women out of their realms. Yeah.
They all the female celebritards, they all took pictures holding up signs saying, bring back our girls.
Yeah. But not the Jewish
girls.
That
did so much.
Right, but not the Jewish girls who are in a tunnel somewhere. God knows what's happening to them.
No,
if they're
don't
alive.
Care about
that.
Yeah, and as I found from a previous pick for tribute to stupidity, people like Roger Waters don't believe that happened. They don't believe that they were raped. And the first thing I'd say to that is, well, when did they stop? Because this has been Islamic terrorism for 1,400 years. It's to rape and to torture and to burn alive. And but I do think, and I have a friend who has a son who's just yay pro-Palestine. And I understand the respect for the dead for not releasing the videos of what really happened on October 7th. But I think that there should be a way that by special arrangement, you could have a person put in a seat like Clockwork Orange with the with their eyeballs being held open, and show them the raw footage of October 7th so they can see, yeah, they were raped, they were set on fire. Because, now with AI, you can deny anything, but these people enjoyed it so much
Well,
that they
also,
were broadcasting on social media.
well, Susan, you're right. Also, look, there's only I mean, look, I do have some faith that there's only a small percentage of people who are going to look at that and say that's AI. You're really wackadoodle, but okay, there's a couple percentage points. So on that note, let's talk for a moment about Netanyahu's speech to Congress. Only Winston Churchill has spoken as many times to Congress. I think he surpassed him by one speech. I put him up there with Winston Churchill, God knows, because at least Netanyahu has some balls. And he said it, this moron, Rashida Tlaib, is sitting there with a sign saying, you're a war criminal, a genocide, blah, 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 holding Hamas blameless. And half the Democrats didn't show up. There's there's a Jewish congresswoman, 35 years old, Sarah Jacobs, from San Diego, who did not show up and thinks Netanyahu should be hauled before the International Criminal Court. This is the divorce.
But not Zelensky.
Oh, this is not Hamas. No, the Hamas is blameless. Hamas is blameless.
So they can do anything they want.
So anyway, they're out graffitiing the Capitol. They're burning the American flag. They're burning Netanyahu. They're burning a Jew in effigy. And and I love when Netanyahu said, Iran is funding these protests, and you protesters are Iran's useful idiots. Thank God someone had the balls to stand up in front of Congress. Why don't we have American Congress people stand up in front of Congress and say, you are all Iran's useful idiots? We had to import someone from Israel to say that. And again, I want to remind the audience, these people were not massacred because they voted for Netanyahu. They were massacred because they're Jews. And
not because you're occupying anything.
And then this wonderful, hopefully not soon to be president of ours, Harris, meets with Netanyahu. And then the next day, she stabs him in the back and says, the protesters who are concerned about Gaza, I hear you. She holds Hamas blameless.
Yeah, I put a very simple post on Facebook saying, and why don't they ever ask Hamas to have a ceasefire? Why is that on Israel? And, I read an article quite a few years ago saying, Israel just isn't a cute puppy anymore. Israel doesn't look like the underdog. So they've proven that they can kick some butt. However, Israel is still the underdog. Israel is a teeny, teeny, tiny country. And I don't know how many official Islamic countries there are. I think it's under 30.
It's like 22 or something.
Yeah. But in the UN, there are 57 Islamic majority countries that form a voting bloc. 57. And the Jews can't have one?
My understanding is they're not even my understanding, at least years ago, is that the Arabs won't even let the Jewish state into their region. They have to be part of the European region because they won't have the Jewish state in their region, even though, of course, they're in their region. Look, you know what? Also, Netanyahu said he said that I'd like to propose an Abraham alliance. And that would be all the Arab states that can normalize with Israel. We all band together with the United States and any other whatever Western powers who would go along to stand up to Iran. And
like the Abraham Accords, which Trump did, and people say, "Look, name me one good thing Trump did." The Abraham Accords.
Yeah, absolutely,
which is plenty good.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think that the divorce of my American Jewish community is complete. And it will be complete the day when, if she puts Shapiro up. Because you see, if you remember, Al Gore put up Joe Lieberman. And I'm going to argue that, again, this was when there was still a Democratic Party, okay? This was when there was still a Democrat. He put up Joe Lieberman. Now, Joe Lieberman was not going to kiss Hamas's ass. Okay, that was a Democrat. Okay, now, and by the way,
a real Democrat.
After 9/11, you notice he left that party. Okay, that was the first step toward the divorce. But here's what's going to happen: you have people like Sarah Jacobs and Josh Shapiro and God knows who else. I have said before, and I'll say it again because I want to be clear, folks. 60 to 70% of the American Jewish community does not stand with Israel, and I'm sorry, that's the way it is. I know there's a lot of Jews like myself who do, but I think when she very cunningly puts Shapiro up, I think that's going to be the divorce, because it's really going to be like, look, man, you know, where are we as Jewish Americans? Because there's just too many who are just too concerned about the feelings of Hamas, and that's how I feel.
Well, and that will be more divisive because it will divide the Jewish community.
It's already done.
It will be seen. It will be seen by the vainglorious as being uniting because she's bringing in a Jew.
Absolutely.
And even this Jewish person is not a Zionist. And I mean, these people will cry harder than anybody when we get hit, because it's not just about Judaism. I'm a shiksa. I care about Israel. Well, I care about Israel, but also because they're our canary in a coal mine.
Yeah, that's right.
Islam succeeds in Israel.
That's right.
That's the little Satan. Then they come after the big Satan. And we are going to have a very dear friend of mine as a guest real soon, who is an Islamic scholar. Yeah. But this has nothing to do with land. Every single Arab state, every Islamic state was taken by force and by the sword. This is a holy war. This is only because their prophet said, you must exterminate the Jews. So if anybody has genocide on their mind, it ain't Israel.
I'm going to do a graphic.
Still waiting for
That's
that
right.
prophet.
No, I agree. And I've said to many of my Jewish friends, folks, Israel's better off in the hands of American Christians than it is in the hands of American Jews. I'm sorry. That's the way it is. Now, look, I know a lot of American Jews who are very supportive. Don't get me wrong, but I'm going to do a graphic display here, okay? It's going to be a high-tech display. And
if you do that yourself?
I'm about to. Wait.
You could have gotten me to help. I'm an artist.
I know. Well, I know. I can't.
But
I can't afford you. All right, now, I'm going to show you, if you ever look at the map of the Middle East, you're going to see, look how I draw. You're going to see a lot of these. And you know what these are? These are straight lines, okay? They're straight lines. After the Ottoman Empire, when they chopped it up, if you notice, there's not that many geographical boundaries in the Middle East. It's like they took a ruler and just took a pen and went, shh, shh, shh. Take a look at the map. These are tribes that go back thousands of years and have come and gone from one place to another and migrated. And again, nobody talks about all the, I think 750,000 or more Jews who were in Arab countries and were expelled from Iran, from Iraq, from all over the Middle East. Nobody gives a damn about them. But it's interesting. I was watching Caroline Glick, and she said, this whole Palestinian refugee thing is such nonsense because when populations are displaced, the refugees end with the people who are displaced. But in the case of the Palestinians, there's a UN agency, UNRWA, just for them, and every descendant of anyone who was ever displaced is considered a refugee. This is batshit. This is all batshit. They're not refugees. Gaza should look like Dubai by now. They chose terror tunnels. They chose all this shit. They're living in shit. You're living in shit. You chose it. And I'm glad that
Israel is still supporting them and feeding them and taking care of them. I mean, who does that with their enemies? Who does that? And Israel's committing genocide.
Yeah, no,
And what about the displaced Gazans who were told, pack up, leave? We're going to let the Palestinians have Gaza. Yeah, it's beautiful beachfront property,
yeah,
but maybe that'll make them peaceful. No,
no,
nothing
no,
is going to make them
no, yeah, no,
peaceful.
no, and
They can
no,
only be
no,
subdued because
no,
they're always going to believe that it is God's will
that's right.
that they exterminate Jews.
Look at. I should have pulled out a copy of their constitution, the Hamas
Oh,
charter.
yes.
It just says kill them all. And
Yeah.
look, when they moved all the Jews out of Gaza, there was a whole bunch of greenhouses that could have fed millions of people. But since the Jews built it, they torched them all. And this is the way it
Kind
is.
of like the
This
Democrats
is
torching everything Trump did.
so. Yeah, no, it is interesting. So look, this is where we are, and now that you mentioned it, let's get back to uh, things being torched, like our energy independence and our border. And I have to double back to, will people really take a good look at the failings of this administration?
Well, I don't want to see hardship on people, but if that's what it takes, um, people start paying attention when they go to the grocery store and they can't afford anything. When their kids say, "I'll never be able to own a home."
When the illegals are in hotels and getting their meals paid for, I mean, I'm praying that Trump puts those numbers on the screen. You got to get some ads going. Here's the
He
numbers.
does, and it was a screen that saved
Here's
him
the
before.
here's the numbers. Yeah,
Yeah.
here's the numbers.
Yes, yes, and along with how many American homeless people there are, how many vets that are homeless. Um, I know somebody who has a son who says, "I could care less about what happened at the border." Well, okay, what if your parents refuse to lock the doors and they let people just come in and take over your home,
And you pay for
and
it.
they took over your room,
And you
and they
pay for it.
started using your stuff, and they
And
broke your
and you
stuff?
pay for it.
Yeah, I think you would care then. And it's like out of sight, out of mind. And I hate to say that because I do think that people are smarter than that.
I hope
I
so.
do believe in it, but at least here in California, they're not.
I'll tell. Well, no, I think California's in big trouble. We talked a lot about Newsom with the anti-parental rights bill that he signed, and we talked about all this last week with Cherie. But Susan, why don't we move on to my favorite subject? I brought in a lot of negativity and cynicism today, and I'm ashamed of myself, quite honestly.
No, don't.
So let's get back to our favorite segment, tribute, and you're going to start tribute to stupidity. Tribute to stupidity. Yay!
Well, my tribute to stupidity is usually really a tribute to the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is when people who are less intelligent than normal think that they're actually more intelligent. So Christopher Wray, in his never-ending brilliance and his expertise, has finally decided that maybe it was a bullet that hit Trump and not shrapnel. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, but Josh, what is shrapnel?
Isn't it a piece of a bullet or a piece of some other incendiary? Who the hell knows?
A piece of a bomb, like war debris? Why would
Oh
that
my
be
God!
less?
It's a result of a shooting. That's what it is. God's sake, people.
Yeah, but
No.
see, the more they do this, see, this is just like COVID. People play along. This is how you learn what's really going on and when you're being lied to. Like with COVID, it's fine that people are demonstrating in the streets. Some of them have masks on, so you don't see their faces, but that's okay. They're not social distancing. It's okay. With this, it's
I,
They're
I
trying to throw the focus away from the current administration.
I call it intellectual backflips. Whatever intellectual backflips. Some people call it
But
spin.
look at what they're
This
protecting.
man almost had his head blown off. He's president of the United States, for God's sake. Is this really what we're about? And we're so partisan now. I mean, that's just utterly insane.
Yes. Yes, because that's how it goes. People read books on communist takeovers and things like that because McCarthyism was poorly conducted, but they were right. There is a communist infiltration,
Yeah.
and they've always had this plan, and now I call it Islamism because Islam will factor in greatly.
Well, McCarthy he crossed some lines that he shouldn't have crossed. I don't know enough about the era, but I think there were some lines in Hollywood that he crossed. But if
Yeah.
he could have focused on the State Department rather than like a Hollywood blacklist, but if he could have focused on the State Department, because if you read Whittaker Chambers' Witness, it was all real. It was all very, very real. There really was
Yes.
a communist infiltration. But
Oh,
the
yes.
Hollywood stuff and people like Dalton Trumbo and that was really what besmirched his name. But he was right to point out that there's a deep state with communists infiltrating, and Whittaker Chambers laid it out. You can read the book, read parts of it. Jesus, just read a couple chapters of it.
Yeah,
And you'll
skim
know
it.
for sure.
And this, this is the Frankfurt School. I mean, it's kind of like with Hamas. Believe them when they
Yeah.
say what they want to do.
Right.
Believe them.
Yep.
The communists have said it didn't work the way we used to, so we're going to use infiltration through the arts, through education. This is going to be cultural Marxism, and believe me, that is what we're seeing, and we saw it so much last night or yesterday during the opening ceremonies of the Olympics, which it was just a cultural Marxist orgasm.
I deliberately didn't watch it. Why don't you tell me a little about it? I can't handle it.
Well, it was a lot like Hollywood in that it just basically sucked artistically.
Yeah.
And then the messages that it was conveying were very anti-freedom.
Name one. Name one. Was there like a last supper, like a last supper, like a transsexual last supper or something? Is this what I saw?
Well, that was anti-Christian.
Okay, but that was part of this. What was it? Because I missed
the
it.
Statue of Liberty, which was a gift from France,
right?
And they had their own miniature version, which was where they put the guillotine during the French Revolution, and it was just a bloodbath. They showed the Statue of Liberty, who clearly had bullet holes in her face. So she was down. She was like, it looked like Planet of the Apes. And there was that symbology, along with what was clearly a celebration of the bloodbath that was the French Revolution, where it was very leftist, and 1 week these would be your enemies, and these are the people whose heads we have to chop off, and then the next week, it's the very same guys who are chopping the heads off of other guys.
So what else from the Olympic ceremony should I go look up?
I don't know. Even like, I'll give Lady Gaga credit for having a lot of talent. I don't like her since she sold her soul to Pfizer. Even her performance, I don't know. It was a bad choice. It was unfortunate they had rain.
What was his Last Supper thing? I'm seeing images.
I don't know. I didn't see that.
I didn't see that part.
I tuned in, and it was already in progress, and I got tired of the auto-tune sound, which is like fingernails on a chalkboard to me. Auto-tune to the human voice is just gross, and I had to turn away.
All right.
It just sucked.
All right.
I mean, aside from it being symbolically offensive, it just sucked.
Well, I'll tell you what. I have a tribute to stupidity. We kind of covered it, but here we go. Tribute to stupidity. Well, my tribute to stupidity is Iran's useful idiots. We talk about this on the show all the time, but there they are out in the streets. And I will give a special designation to my fellow Jewish Americans who want to stab Israel in the back. I'm sorry. There are many of us in this country who know to blame Hamas, but there are many like Sarah Jacobs, the congresswoman, 35 years old, from San Diego, who boycotted Netanyahu's speech, who are stabbing Israel in the back. You are truly an idiot, Sarah Jacobs. So you and the rest of the useful idiots. But I want to give a special shout out to my fellow Jewish Americans who are so willing to stab Israel in the back. I'm sorry. Stand with the Jews who will stand with Israel. God bless Israel, and screw you, Sarah Jacobs. And the cheering stops abruptly. So there it is, Susan. Anything else before we conclude this?
Yeah, it's just, okay. There's kind of like a rebellious teenager in every leftist. And I think they're saying, well, I was raised Jewish, but, F the Jews, F Israel. And, you're going through your rebellious stage. You may be in your late 40s or 50s, but you're still going through that. It's not, it's about humanity. It's about good and evil. It's like this is real. This is a deliberate hatred of a people. And once again, you guys are it. You should be against hatred. And the hatred is not on Israel, who sends out warnings before they bomb anything. Who else does that? Does Ukraine do that? This is about hatred and pure evil. And you better wise up, because you're going to be victims of it.
Susan Olson, thank you for another great episode of The Crusher. And I will be talking to you real soon. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.